Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40K Imperial Guard Tactics video. So since 8th edition dropped, I've been trying out lots of new and interesting things with my Imperial Guard army. Lots of different combinations of units and equipment. I've been giving the Imperial Guard a good play testing, and 8th edition's been out for what, like 6 months now, roughly. And in that 6 months I've extensively play tested the Imperial Guard. But there's been lots, I've not run the same list sort of more than 3 times. Apart from, I'd say the only exception to that is my Steel Legion list, where I have run it time and time again and honed it and made it very, very distilled. We talked about that concept of distillation. But a lot of the time I've sort of run lists sort of 3, maybe 4 times, sort of got a good feel for how the units sort of work, and then I've moved on and tried another combination. And since 8th has dropped, I've been using sort of lots of vehicles as well, because obviously back in sort of 7th and 6th edition, vehicles just weren't as good for the Imperial Guard, and so I used to use lots and lots of infantry. So it was nice for me to get the opportunity to use my vehicles again. However, Games Workshop keeps on nerfing us. And they're nerfing us hard. Now, I want to say that I've done a bit more looking into the nerf that might be coming up with the whole 5 points, Guardsmen going to 5 points. I've only found one it's sort of a rumour that seems to be flying around the internet, but I can't find any substantial evidence to back it up. A few forums here and there, so it might not be happening, but it's definitely, from what I've heard and from people I've spoken to, it's not certain. It's not on or off the cards yet. It's just no one's quite sure. It wouldn't be an unexpected move by Games Workshop, but also it's not expected. What is expected is they're going to make some changes to the way command points work, apparently, and who can use certain command points. That's as much information I have on that at the moment, so don't read into that too much. That's just a little sort of a little birdie, like in Game of Thrones. One of my little birdies has told me that, but nothing for certain. So nothing is for certain that any nerfs are coming specifically the way of Imperial Guard. But Games Workshop has nerfed us really hard, and they've given us some good things, but they've also, they've taken a lot of things away from us. And with the advent of certain armies becoming very powerful again, sort of Space Marines and Chaos and Eldar reigning supreme once again. 3rd edition. Well, I don't know an edition when Eldar haven't been top, but for me, this is basically the 3rd edition when Eldar have been OP and the best codex out there. So nothing's changed there. Some things never change, but it's got me thinking. Maybe it's time for us to stop all. Maybe it's time for me to stop all this experimentation, and maybe it's time for me to go back to basics. Go back to what I know and love, and that is being a pure infantry commander. Because in all the games that I've played, what I've tended to notice is that what's becoming more and more apparent in the games that I play, I should say, is people are becoming quite adept at taking out my heavy hitters. The problem with the Leman Russ, which I rely heavily on Leman Russes and artillery to be my damage dealers, as I imagine a lot of Imperial Guard players do. And my problem with that is that Leman Russes, they are a tough old beast, but they're also a big old target. And it's not too hard for someone to kill a Leman Russ. As always, as has been every edition, Leman Russes are good when they're not focused down, but when they get focused down, they die surprisingly quickly. And so I've got, so for example, in the battle report I play, battle report coming up, I should say, you'll see one of my opponents who has learnt to deal with my Leman Russes. shall we say. And also, in a battle I played recently against a different Blood Angels player, he was able to neutralise 3 of my 4 Leman Russes by turn 2. And in the game that I played against the Chaos Demon Nurgle Trees bullshit list, he was able to kill 3 Leman Russes in 1 turn, because they're easily identifiable as damage dealers. And that was always the problem with Leman Russes in every edition. I mean, they've always been pretty tough as vehicles go, but they've also never been impossible to kill. So, with this long sort of rambling intro going on, and I'm going to get to the crux of the matter now, that's sort of setting up for where I want to go next, is it time for us to return to pure infantry? Is it time for us to go back there? Now, I know we've received a lot of nerfs in that area, but I read a comment on Daka Daka the other day, and I think, unfortunately, that this guy is going to be, what he said is going to be true. He said, I really hope we don't have to go back to the days where we had to run 200 infantry just to remain barely competitive. Well, you know what, guys? I think we're back there. I think we have to run 200 infantry to be competitive. Now, I just want to, before I go on, I want to say there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to think, no, we're never going to see the Steel Legion. That is not true. The Steel Legion are, at the moment, my most competitive army out there. I have won a lot of games with the Steel Legion 234th Mechanized. Okay. And they are well on their way to being finished. Okay, so don't worry. The Steel Legion are going to be featured heavily. They're probably going to be featured... They're going to be featured really heavily because they're the best looking army I currently have. So don't worry about that. But so I just want to say, don't worry, Steel Legion players. Mechanized is still on the table. But so that's one thing I'll say. One avenue I have found is obviously Mechanized is quite powerful. But a lot of people don't want to go Mechanized, and a lot of people who have been following me from 7th edition have probably got quite substantial infantry reserves that they want to be able to draw upon. And I honestly think it might be time to go back to the pure infantry. Now, I know we've lost conscripts, pretty much. And I know we've lost commissars, pretty much. But also the game has changed slightly. Well, the 8th edition has changed significantly. In 7th edition, we used to need conscripts because we just needed to be able to get a good source of bodies on the table. We needed cheap bodies. But Imperial Guard infantry squads have got much cheaper. Much, much cheaper. I mean, they're 40 points base, and like I said, I'm pretty sure that that's going to stay the way it is from my additional research. I'm pretty sure that's going to stay the way it is. But 50-50 maybe. But they're 40 points standard, and our weapon choices have got cheaper. Plasma's only 7 points. Heavy bolters are only 8 points. Back in the day, a autocannon grenade launcher squad would run you 65 points. Now it runs you 57. Back in the day, a plasma gun las cannon squad would run you at 85 points. Now it runs you at 67. See what I'm saying? Whilst we've lost conscripts, we are also not spending as much on our regular line infantry squads. Even if infantry squads go up by 1 point per model, it's still only 77 points for one of our plasma las cannon squads. That's like 8 points cheaper than it used to be. That's significant savings across a whole army. So I think it's perfectly possible for us to run a really, really good pure infantry army without commissars and without conscripts. And the way I've been playing around with this, and I'm going to play test this weekend, hopefully, if I can get a game in. I'm going to play test this, and I'm going to see how it does, and I'm going to report back the next week. Okay. My thinking is we want to take the sort of the fighting group concept and retrofit it, because I've always used this fighting group concept in my pure infantry armies, but I never really realised I was doing it. I've been doing it subconsciously. Because back in 7th edition, do you know what my fighting group was called? A platoon. The best I ever did with my pure infantry army was with the Emperor Shield Infantry Company, a formation which I was told by many people on the internet was rubbish. And I took that to a really, really competitive tournament, and I won 4 out of 6 games that did the best I'd ever done in any tournament up until that point. And obviously I've done better in 8th edition now. But that was back in the day when Imperial Guard were rubbish. And that was, I took on Eldar lists, I took on Tau lists, I took on a mixture of everything. I took on War Convocation with that twice and won. So, but that's 7th edition. Looking into 8th edition, I want to rebuild my platoons again. I don't care if Games Workshop says platoons aren't a thing anymore. I think we've all been looking at this the wrong way. Platoons were a great source of strength. A lot of people saw them as tax. You know, the command squad was a tax unit. You know, all the heavy weapons and stuff. Heavy weapon squads, they could be you know, there was too much in one blob and it was limiting. You know, the one advantage of the platoon is you could get more bodies in a troop slot, but now that doesn't really matter anymore. I think what the platoon used to do is it used to force you to take a variety of units, because you had to take your infantry squads and your command squad, and the command squad gave you buffs for the regular infantry, and then you sort of had to take heavy weapon squads and stuff as well to give you some added punch. And that meant that you had that extra firepower, and you sort of had to take conscripts to give yourself the bodies. So the infantry squad was a really great source of power, and we never even... Well, maybe we've forgotten that going into 8th edition. Maybe we forgot. Maybe we all saw, oh, we don't have to take those elements anymore. Well, you know what? Maybe there's a reason we had to take those elements in the first place. And I know that there's a lot of musing here. This is kind of a Black Templar Friday sort of style video, because I've just been sort of thinking about this on the way home from work and stuff. No, but... maybe the infantry squad worked and was our main source of competitiveness in 7th edition because it forced us to take elements that worked together and achieved a common goal. And I think maybe we've forgotten that going into 8th. We all sort of have gone nuts saying, oh, we can take conscripts on their own and we can take infantry squads on their own. But those elements, unsupported, fall apart. So I think if we return to this platoon format, bringing back platoons to 8th edition, how to make Imperial Guard competitive again. I might use that as a title of this video. I think that may be the key to success, because we're looking at things like Eldar Reaper spam, and even if Reapers get nerfed hard, they're still going to be competitive. We're looking at things like Chaos Soup lists. You know, a Chaos Soup list, a proper Chaos Soup list, is like has a cultist bomb, which is like 40 cultists, which can like blast loads of stuff, and bloodletter bomb, which is like 30 bloodletters. But that, at the end of the day, if that's the majority of the enemy's army, that's like 70 toughness 3 models. We could deal with that. I mean, what's that old adage? If it can be wounded on 4s by lasguns, the enemy is screwed. That's what I used to say going into a tournament. I used to be like, oh wow, I can wound you on 4s with my lasguns. Easy peasy, because the lasguns are the main source of my damage. And guess what? Like I said, you know, 8th edition has changed. Back in the day, we'd have to take conscripts to get bodies, but now we're cheaper. Well, guess what? Back in the day, lasguns just used to be ablative wounds. Well, you know what? Lasguns now do damage. Lasguns can kill anything. Now, an Imperial Knight, as for example, has only got a 3+ save. You chuck enough lasguns at that, he's going to fail 33% of the wounds you chuck on him. Now, I brought down consistently my opponent's Blood Angels Storm Ravens with lasguns because I'd chipped the last 2 or 3 wounds off with it. So lasguns, again, 8th edition has changed because lasguns are now competent. 8th edition changed because now we used to have lasguns used to off if we ever shot an infantry squad at like a tank or something, the lasguns would be wasted. Well, guess what? Now the lasguns aren't wasted, and if we need to, we can split fire. We don't need to direct all our fire into one place. Now, I often recommend that we do, but we don't need to. And that's, you know, that gives us tactical flexibility on our infantry squads. So, and the last thing I want to say is sort of going back to this concept of pure infantry. The sort of fluff in the Imperial Guard Codex is no military action is undertaken in the Astra Militarum, that's what it says, I would prefer to say Imperial Guard, without Guardsmen. They are used from everything to forlorn charges, to desperate rear guards, to massive wave assaults, to pinpoint deep strike attacks, Guardsmen, in theory, in the fluff, can do anything. And at the moment, people are complaining really hard about Guardsmen. But you know what? I don't think they're complaining enough about them. I think we need to make them really fear the Guardsman squad. So I've given you this theory. I've given you my thoughts. I've given you my feelings on this concept. Now let's get down to brass tacks. Let's talk turkey. Let's get it on. How are we going to implement the infantry squad awesomeness? Well, like I said, let's go back to this platoon concept. I propose for a 2,000 point army this is what I'm going to try at the weekend. I'm going to take 5 platoons in inverted commas. Okay, not 5, sorry, 4 platoons. 4 platoons. I'm going to take, and each platoon is going to have 50 men in it, at least. So how I'm going to do it is I'm going to have 3 infantry squads. Straight off the bat, this is in each platoon, 3 infantry squads, and each one is going to be on the las cannon and a plasma gun. Okay? Because that's only 6-7 points per squad. Now, if infantry models do go up to sort of 5 points a guy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that las cannon down to an autocannon. But for now, it's 3 infantry squads with las cannon and plasma gun. Then I'm going to take a veteran squad. Now, I want those veterans to be able to provide me with firepower, but not be a huge target themselves. I kind of want my veterans to last through the turns and for my infantry squads to be the bigger targets. So to that aim, I'm going to give my veteran squads 3 grenade launchers and an autocannon. Okay? So that's 40 men so far. And then I'm going to take a command squad. And the command squad is going to have a regimental standard, a sniper rifle, and an autocannon. Once again, I want the command squad to be able to provide me with a little bit of additional firepower, but I don't want it to be high on my opponent's priority list. I want my opponent to see las cannons. I want to make my las cannons really obvious in my infantry squads. I want to see the las cannons and then target my infantry. Okay? Because that will allow my veteran units to consistently do damage. And if he sees the flag and kills the veteran unit, if he sees the veterans and gets a thing for killing the Bisquill 3+ models, then that's okay, because the infantry squads with the plasma guns and the las cannons are able to hit him hard. Now, I then want to take a heavy weapon squad. I want to keep this cheap. I want to go back to my favourite unit in the Imperial Guard of nearly all time, mortar heavy weapon teams. Through 6th and 7th edition, when people were telling me, take Wyverns, Mordian Glory, take Wyverns, bro, they're so much better. I didn't. I took mortars, and I'm going to take mortars again. Okay? So I'm going to take a squad of mortars. Now, the point of the mortars is to help fulfill out the detachments, which I'll go over in a second, and to also provide with some indirect fire. There's a lot of units out there, a lot of armies out there, which rely on a couple of squads hidden out of line of sight to cap objectives. I need to be able to bring anti-hide units. Okay, so mortars will do that, and considering I've got 4 platoons, that's 12 mortars. That'll do. Now, then I want to take 2 company commanders. And that provides me with 52 bodies. So 50, it's 40 line infantry, and then 10, and then 12 other support elements. Okay? So that's 52 men in the platoon. And I want to take that 4 times. Now, if you add that up points-wise, what you get is you get 67 times 3, 201, and then you get a veteran squad with grenade launcher, and that puts you up to 288. And then you take a mortar heavy weapon squad, which I believe it's 18 points for the mortar teams, is it? And then 15 for the mortars themselves. And then the command squad, so 24 plus 12 plus 10 for the flag plus 2 for the sniper. And then we take 2 command, which is 60. So that's 429 points. We times that by 4. Okay, and that's 1,700 716 points. Now, to fulfill that, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to be taking a brigade and a battalion in this list. Okay, because I want to be able to take, I want a lot of command points, but I don't want to take, I tried working this in with a double brigade. I only was able to get 180 bodies into the army, and it wasn't as good because I had so many had to take 6 lots of sentinels, for example. In this case, I'm just going to take the 3 sentinels now because I've just got the 1 brigade. So that's 45 times 3. Because I'm just going to take cheap scout sentinels. Now that should put me up to 1,851 points. Roughly 1850. Okay? Now that means I've got 1,500 points left over. You know what, guys? I'm not even sure what to spend that on. I'm genuinely not sure. Okay, so I'm going to leave that as a question for you guys to comment. What should I spend my last 1,800, well, my last 150 points on? Okay, so what we've got here is 200 bodies. We've got 120 line infantry plus 40 veterans plus another 40 infantry as support, and then we've got 8 officers. So that provides me with 4 orders. Not 4 orders, 16 orders. Okay, so I'm not gone currently for an order for each squad because I'm expecting some units to just die straight off the bat. So I'll be able to, and I'm not really going to order, I don't plan on ordering my mortars. They're kind of, like I said, a cheap tax. So I don't plan on ordering my mortars, but you know, that means I could order both infantry squads, all 3 infantry squads, and the veterans. But if the infantry squads die, I can then start ordering the command squads, and then if another infantry squad dies, I can then start ordering the mortars, for example. So that is what I've gone for so far. Now, what I've done is I'm leaving those 150 points because I'm not sure what regiment I'm going to take. Okay, you see, I should say I'm taking a brigade and a battalion. And the brigade is going to have 6 infantry squads, 4 veteran squads, and then 4 officers, 3 sentinels, and 4 heavy weapon teams. And then the battalion will have the remaining infantry and remaining officers. So that's how I'm doing it, which will give me 15 command points, which is nice. I can do a lot with 15 command points. And now, I haven't decided what regiment I want to take. Now, I'm thinking it's kind of a balance between, I have to choose between morale and damage output. Okay, so if I take Mordians, for example, all my infantry are leadership 8, and then they get +1, leadership 7, +1 for Mordian, +1 for the flag. So my men will be leadership 9. Now, I've got 150 points. I could possibly throw some Inquisitors or Commissars in there. I could probably get up to leadership 10, but I'm not sure. Okay, so it's like, I'm leadership 9. Do I spend that 150 points on increasing my morale to leadership 10? Or maybe getting some more DACA in there? Maybe, some heavy weapon, heavy bolter squads, or some more mortars. I'm not sure yet. Upgrading my veterans to have better weapons. I'm not sure yet. On the other hand, I could take Valhallans, and whilst my leadership base would be lower, I would be taking less damage from battle shock. So that's an interesting thing to consider. I wouldn't have to worry about morale at that point. I'd be taking much, much, much less damage from battle shock. Now I could take Cadians. Now Cadians seems like the most competitive because I can gun line for a couple of turns and just get basically rerolls across my entire army. That's going to do an insane level of damage output. And with my remaining 150 points, I could buy some cheap commissars. Now I know they'll screw me over if I start failing morale tests, but I could buy some cheap commissars to give me some, combined with the flag, some leadership 9 across the board, which would help. Okay. 1 commissar per platoon in inverted commas. So that's a possibility. Cadian seems like I'll be getting rerolls across the whole army, doing insane amounts of DACA. That seems like a good idea. Catachans, I don't have any flamers in this army currently, but I could easily flamer spam. I could put a flamer or two in every, a flamer in every squad, which would obviously help with the Catachans. The natural strength 4 would allow me, I mean, I'm still going to aim to gunline, but it would allow me to counter-attack and, do some serious damage against some potential assault armies. Or if I need to go on the assault, it means I don't need to worry about that. But I feel like Catachan Pure Infantry is one of the weaker options here, which is surprising because Catachan are overall very competitive. But I think Pure Infantry Catachan isn't quite what I want to go for. Now, Forstroyan would be interesting. Forstroyan would allow me to gunline harder, but it wouldn't increase my damage output in any way, and it wouldn't increase my morale. So I would be a bit worried. I mean, I'd be able to shoot at a longer range, but that's not giving me more shots. It's not giving me rerolls. It's not giving me better morale. So I think Forstroyan is a good option, though. It's just a very basic, here's an extra 6-inch range. I think that could help. Now, Talon is interesting. Talon would allow me to... I wouldn't have to gunline. I wouldn't have to gunline at all. What I could do with Talon is go very, very hyper-aggressive. I could move everyone forward all the time and not have to worry about moving and shooting with heavy weapons. It would make my infantry army surprisingly mobile. And in competitive tournaments, when it's all about objectives, it would really allow me to run and gun. So I think, surprisingly, a pure Talon infantry army would be very, very powerful. I would struggle with morale. But I could outflank using the Talon stratagem and the dagger of the outflanking dagger relic. I could outflank 4 squads and an officer. So that's interesting. It's very interesting. Now that lets me open up a whole new front. If I've got 200 infantry slogging on the board, maybe that I would get bottlenecked. Having the ability to outflank 20% of my force could A, reduce bottlenecking and also open up an additional flank on the opponent. Don't forget as well, I have 15 command points. I could use the ambush stratagem twice before the game and outflank 7 units. 7 units and an officer if I do ambush twice and the dagger, and I still have 9 command points left over. That would be very interesting. Now, what an Armageddon Steel Legion. I think that's the last one. Okay, if I've missed one, I apologise. But Armageddon Steel Legion, now that would be interesting. Now, obviously, I would miss out on the whole point of taking vehicles as Steel Legion, but I would have an 18-inch rapid fire. Now, considering I am rocking a hell of a lot of plasma guns in this list, I'm rocking 12 plasma guns, and I'm also rocking a hell of a lot of las guns in this list, I would have an 18-inch absolute murder range. That's 200 infantry with an 18-inch rapid fire. Now, roughly, that's 6. I mean, that's 6 times 12. And then another 20. I think it's about 100 infantry, roughly. It's 100 las guns with an 18-inch rapid fire range, which means at 18 inches at full capacity, which I'll very rarely be, and I'll very rarely be in, well, with an 18-inch rapid fire, actually, I can get to rapid fire range pretty quickly and across the whole army. That's 400 las gun shots I could pump out in a turn, on top of all the plasma as well, and las cannons and grenade launchers and autocannons. So I think Armageddon Steel Legion is a real competitor here. Now I think it basically comes down to, do I want to have good morale, Valhallans and Mordians, or do I want to have good damage output, which is the other armies? I want you guys to tell me what you think would be the best doctrine for this tactic, okay? For the 200 infantry doctrine, what do you think would be the best one? That's where I'm going to finish the video, guys. That's where I'm going to finish the video. I don't know where I'm going to spend those 150 points. I haven't decided yet, but I've got a good solid core, and having 150 points left over means if infantry squads go up by 1 point per model, I don't need to worry too much. And in the meantime, if it's not, I can levy that 150 points to get myself some more firepower or some additional morale. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please leave lots and lots of comments. This is a really important video, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.